كفاحي سلاحي وعزمي صديقي، أنا الشعب ماشي وعارف طريقي، كفاحي سلاحي وعزمي صديقي، يقود الليالي وبعيون أمالي أحدد مكان الصباح الحقيقي، أنا الشعب.
The Egyptian revolution began on the 25th of January 2011. It was part of the Arab Spring that toppled dictatorships in Tunisia, Yemen, Libya and Egypt. On the 10th anniversary of the uprisings in Egypt, we're looking at the impacts on art. Creativity flourished at the time and in the period that followed. A decade on, with President al-Sisi ruling Egypt with an iron grip since 2014, what has become of the active cultural scene? To talk more about this, I'm joined by Egyptian-born photographer Nabil Boutros, who's been based in Paris for the past 30 years. His work has been shown in cultural institutions like the Guggenheim Museum in New York and Paris's Arab World Institute. Welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you here. Now, 10 years ago, hundreds, then thousands of Egyptians descended on Tahrir Square to call for bread, freedom and social justice and to demand an end to the brutality of the police. 18 days later, those thousands had grown to millions, and Hosni Mubarak's 30-year dictatorship was over. What do you remember about those 18 days?
Oh, it was 18 days of craziness and a big energy of people really demanding freedom and bread, and because police was more and more brutal at this end of Mubarak reign. And it was like an open door to all kind of possibles, but all kind of possibles have the good and the bad. So we were all on our screens, on the streets, and we were hoping something new. But at the same time, honestly, I have a little doubt about what could happen later. Of course, there is a lot of energy and a lot of powerful creativity, but who can collect this powerful thing to organize a state like the Egyptian state? Who can do that? The human rights and all the organizations, the civil ones, were not enough strong to do that. And happened what happened.
Now, you live here in Paris, but your work constantly questions what it means to be Egyptian and challenges our understanding of what Egypt is. Your portrait work called We Are All Egyptian became the poster and the slogan of the revolution. Tell us about that work and why it became an emblem, do you think?
Well, I think it was not, I didn't start this work for this, and with 25 portraits of auto portraits showing that the suit makes the man. That was the starting of the idea. And then a friend of mine made a poster out of it because of a bomb attack that happened in Alexandria on the 1st January of the same year. And then the revolution, the 25th of January arrived, and people were using it differently. So it was great to see that some work is living its own life without you. And it was very, it was very right to do it this way, because it's people wanted to say we are all Egyptians. We are different, but we are all Egyptians. Of course, my female friends were, why there is no any female? The 9 are men. The half of the population is women, and so on. I said, okay, but the circumstances made it was done very quickly, and so, but it worked.
At the time of the protest, there was a lot of street art and there was music in the streets in Cairo, a sort of artistic renaissance. Today, much of that art has been cleaned off the walls. Are there any traces of the revolution?
I saw a new generation born in these, not only the 18 days, but these two years. A new generation of documentary learning on the spot how to make a reportage, because the newspapers did not have any kind of visual culture, not photography, not documentary at all. And they learned it on the spot. I can tell you today, you have a generation of real photographers
Well, music played a big role during those days of protest. This is from a web documentary made by France 24. Have a listen.
كلنا ايد واحدة طلبنا حاجة واحدة ارحل 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 يسقط حسني مبارك يسقط حسني مبارك.
بالنسبة للفنان كمان في فنانين كتير قوي بعد الثورة.
These artists, they took great liberties. They dared to say everything. This is beautiful.
بالنسبة لي طول ما أنا في الميدان طول ما أنا وسط الثوار وسط أهلي
As long as I am in Tahrir among my brothers, my freedom has no limits.
أنا سقف حريتي في
No artist in the world can express himself more freely than me, thanks to these people in Tahrir Square.
اللي أنا قدرت بيه بسبب الثوار وبسبب الناس اللي حواليا.
Now, the musician we saw there, Rami Essam, now lives in exile in Sweden. His 2018 song Balaha led to arrests in Egypt of people thought to be connected with the music. Now, there was this moment when artists felt that they had freedom of expression. They could say what they liked, what they felt, and they could do and sing what they liked. Their art could be free. That moment, though, seems to have passed. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, listen, censorship have existed since the British were in Egypt, so it's not very new. But in the same time, I have big faith in the creativity of the Egyptians. What happened in 2011 cannot be forgot. This is sure. And the generation that have from 15 till 35, maybe 40, at that time, they cannot forget, and they are doing with it. Whatever is happening, they are doing with this. And the creativity of Egyptians, believe me, is good enough.
Okay, well, many artists have also left Egypt for economic reasons, like Hakim Abdel Naim, who's lived in Paris since 2018. Our reporters have been to meet him.
Egyptian artist Hakim Abdel Naim has lived in Paris since 2018. The filmmaker, writer, and theatre director from Alexandria often comes to hang out at this arts and community centre in Pantin. On the 25th of January 2011, when the revolution began in his country, he was only 20 years old.
At that moment, I felt that, okay, there's no time for art for me. There's no time for creation. It's the time for the street. And I'm not stuck in the rehearsal studios or in my home. I feel like that. I feel that this is my role now, to be with people in the street, everywhere.
Having lived through this violent period, in the years that followed, Hakim opened himself up to new cultures.
I start to see new movies. I start to read new books because I didn't know about it before. I meet a new person during the revolution that make me read this or see this or watch this or know this. So for me, the post-revolution period was the reason to change everything in my point of view regarding art and regarding everything.
After 2014 and the arrival of President al-Sisi, Hakim restarted his career, creating video pieces and putting on theatre performances.
I felt in 2018, I don't want to be drained, I don't want to be burned out. I would love to keep this energy of me that started in 2011 and to be in another place that just to recharge. Because to witness a revolution and to witness a post-revolution events, it's not easy. It's not easy at all.
Hakim came to France following artistic opportunities, but now another crisis has put his ambitions on hold.
We started our 20s with the revolution. We end our 20s with virus.
Once again prevented from performing in public, Hakim, like this company of dancers and artists around the world, has been in rehearsals for nearly a year.
So, Nabil, we saw there an artist who has left Egypt. You've lived here in Paris for the past 30 years. You do go back regularly when COVID, especially before COVID. It's been difficult since then. I wanted to ask you, what is the cultural scene like in Egypt? And is there a legacy of the Arab Spring that we see there in the art?
It's not very obvious. It's not very clear, but I still... I want to give you an image of a tree growing with some flowers or whatever, it grows slowly. What happened is marking this whole generation, and things are going very positively in despite of all. It's something growing in the society because the society needs to move. Now, the best thing to do is, for me as an artist or a teacher, is to see how these young people are moving because they are tomorrow's society.
Just very quickly, is it a good place to be an artist today, Egypt, in 2021?
It's difficult. It's very difficult. But the inventivity of how to talk about things without talking about things is something we are used to. And the Egyptian humor is essential.
Okay, Nabil Boutros, it's been a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for joining us. And thank you guys at home for watching. Remember our website. We're also on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. There's more news coming up on France 24 after this.
الشباب البديع قلبوا خريفها ربيع وحققوا المعجزة صحوا القتيل من القتل اقتلني قتلي ما حيعيد دولتك تاني بكتب بدمي حياة تانية لأوطاني دمي ده ولا الربيع الاتنين بلون أخضر وببتسم من تعدي ولا أحزان